This is A-Game. Fast acting, long lasting, with no side effects.
Hey all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your host, femininity coach, and author of the Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So welcome back to the remix for a Harlem Review introduction, and this is for season 1. So there's only been one season so far as of the recording of this video, and that season has 10 episodes. And the reason that I'm coming back at it is just to give you a bit more of a comprehensive understanding and introduction, not only to the main characters in the show, but also to the crew, meaning some of the writers and the producers of the show. So starting out, we have some producers. We've got Linda Mendoza, who has produced, she's popular for producing Ugly Betty and Scrubs. She's produced shows such as The Upshaws, Grownish, Blackish, Grand Crew, Yearly Departed, With Love, of course, Harlem, Comedy Chingones, A Night in the Academy Museum, and 2 specials with Tiffany Haddish. Tiffany Haddish, Black Mitzvah, and Tiffany Haddish Presents They Ready. Okay, so this was a rather accomplished producer. There were more projects, but I only went back. If they had a couple of years worth of work listed, I only went back just a couple of years. Then we have another producer by the name of Nema Barnett. And Nema Barnett is known for engaging audiences with a body of socially compelling and politically charged work that, quote, defines narrow stereotypes of African Americans, usually depicted in entertainment. So what we have here is a producer who's kind of known for, I guess, shaking things up or putting new spins or trying to perhaps maybe reinvent the image of Black people in entertainment. Okay, so she is known for producing The Equalizer, of course, Harlem, a show called Genius, Paradise Lost, Black Lightning, which I believe is based on a comic book character, Raising Dion, which is a show that I actually watched a couple of episodes of. It was a sort of an interesting storyline. I'm not going to get into that. You can watch that on Netflix, I believe. A show called Ambitions, Jane the Virgin, Bosch, Midnight Texas, The Good Cop, Love Is, Luke Cage, which if you're, a Marvel fan, you love Luke Cage and The Punisher and Daredevil and all of that. Being Mary Jane, that was the one with Gabrielle Union. And Queen Sugar, which I do believe was on the OWN network. And if I'm not mistaken, Ava DuVernay was behind Queen Sugar. But then you have the one man as a producer. So there are 4 producers, 3 women and 1 man. His name is Malcolm D. Lee. Actually realized that he's Spike Lee's cousin. So Harlem, the new Space Jam, the one with LeBron James, at least 1 episode of that Wu-Tang series, and a series about Wu-Tang Clan, Night School, Girls Trip, Shots Fired, Winning Ugly, Barbershop, The Next Cut, and Best Man Holiday. And then last but not least, we have the last woman here, producer, named Stacey Muhammad. And this was an endorsement, a quote from Ava DuVernay about Stacey, which says, Stacey's voice as a filmmaker is clear, bold, and ready to be heard. Okay, so that's a strong endorsement. Queens, these are the shows she's responsible for. Queens, Harlem, Guilty Party, Love Life, First Wives Club, and Queen Sugar. Also a little special that was called Now You Know with Tika and Curtis Sumter. If you're not familiar with Tika Sumter, if you've watched The Have and the Have-Nots, she's Candace. And then she had a web series that didn't really have much. It strikes me as not having taken off at all. This was a web series done in 2013 called For Black Boys, which was supposed to be almost the other side of For Colored Girls. Okay, but that didn't seem to really take off or get legs because there wasn't really a lot of information on that. But she's responsible for producing it also. So now we can move on to at least a few of the writers, three of the writers, the main writers. So we have a writer named Tracy Oliver, who's of course responsible for Harlem, Girls Trip, and First Wives Club. So we can see that these writers and producers are kind of in the same like circle area, right? Jessica Watson, who's responsible for a show called Broad City, Pen 15, Forever, Nobody's Empire, and Harlem. So this is probably why we're seeing some of the actors and actresses kind of crossing over between Empire, between Tyler Perry's productions, if you ever watched those, because I do believe some of the actors who work with Tyler Perry also work on Queen Sugar. I've never watched Queen Sugar. I don't know if that show is even still going on continuously or if they ended it, but I've never actually watched it. And then lastly, we have a lady by the name of Erin Michelle Williams, who wrote for Keanu, The Umbrella Academy, which was actually really interesting. You could probably catch that on Netflix still, and Harlem. Okay. So now that we got a little bit of the main crew, the producers and the writers introduced to you, now I can go into the four main characters. These are the four women that the show Harlem is centered upon, telling their stories intertwined and individually. Okay. So when we take a look, I want to say she's the main character, but each of them have their time in the spotlight. But since I've watched the entire season, Camille is the main character. So of course, Camille is played by Megan Good. Okay, and here's my take on Camille. Camille is the academic. Okay, this is the type of Black woman that has placed her value in her academic pursuits. She's had a troubled relationship with her mother. She had a good man, which is that character's name is Ian, played by Tyler Lepley, who was Benny on The Have and Have-Nots. So she had a good man, and she let him go to pursue her own personal goals. Really, this is the surface reason why their relationship didn't work. And I'm not going to get into details about that at the moment. So let me just continue to talk about who she is. This is the surface reason that they broke up. Camille is a highly insecure person and who is basically a liar, okay? She fears all sorts of social judgments. Camille does not like being judged. She doesn't like being pinned to anything. She doesn't like any of that. So she often tells the so-called little white lie. She tells lies of omission. So simply not telling a portion of things, not telling this individual the full story, not telling this individual the full story, those things. Or she somehow manipulates the truth in order to avoid said judgments or having to admit to her insecurities or to avoid commitments. Okay? So Camille is a highly insecure young woman. Okay? She's bad at keeping her word. This goes into her being the quote unquote little white liar. She doesn't think that these little lies and these little half truths and things like that are a big deal. However, she continuously lands in these awkward situations or situations that could possibly be dangerous because she didn't want to be pinned to a certain thing, or she didn't want to tell a certain person this because she didn't want them looking at her differently, or she didn't want them thinking of her differently. She really thinks that she can get away with these lies. So as we go on, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about as we move into the season. Okay, so the next character I want to talk about is a character named Quinn, who's played by Grace Byers. Grace Byers made her debut as Anika on Empire, aka Boo Boo Kitty. She's the one who was engaged to Lucius. Okay, so she's like a second generation immigrant whose parents are from Jamaica. She was raised in a 2-parent household, so they struggled a little bit before they became like well-to-do or wealthy, basically. All right. So we understand that Quinn was having a successful career working for JP Morgan. You got that right, the bank. Okay. And she had a fiance. And then she, for reasons that we can get into another time, she decides to leave that job. So she left a successful career and ended up losing not only the job, she didn't lose the job, she quit. And then she lost the fiance, but then she also lost the respect of her mother, okay? Because her mother knows her. Her mother is played by Jasmine Guy, okay? So she loses the respect of her mother because her mother knows her daughter, okay? And she knows that Quinn doesn't really have a plan. She did this move, but she doesn't have any plan. She doesn't have any structure. She's basically taken herself out of the structure and the leadership that her father and that her father has given her on the path of her career and the man that she was engaged to and all of these sorts of things. So she has several ideas for running various different businesses. She wants to be an entrepreneur. She wants to, quote unquote, chase her dream, but she hasn't even really established what her dream is. So she doesn't have a plan, and therefore she often relies on her parents' wealth to keep her afloat financially. In terms of romance, she has horrible discernment where it concerns men. She does not pick men well on her own. Okay? She doesn't. She always makes bad decisions for herself because she does not have standards or a solid criteria for the men. Next on the list is Ty, played by Jerry Johnson. So Ty is the L word character of the group, okay? She's highly successful. She's professionally, she's up there. She created an app, a dating app for the alphabet community, people of color, and which really took off, right? So she's the CEO of that, and that made her very wealthy. Ty is the playboy, quote unquote. She's the F-19. She has all of the F-19 behavior that a lot of women say that they detest in men, but she's actually forgiven for it because she's a woman. Okay, so she's highly successful. She's the playboy type, and she doesn't have any real attachments to anyone. Ty is in this group, and this group is supposedly very tight knit. But what we come to understand about Ty is that her so-called sisters and friends don't really know a lot about her past. They don't really know a lot about her in depth. They know, they hang out. They know she runs a company. They know she's rich. They know she's an L word. They know she, she runs through women like water. Like, they know all of that stuff, but they don't know who Ty, whose name in the show, full name is Taisha. They don't really know who Taisha is. And as the season progresses, they come to kind of understand that they don't really know her as well as they would like to know her, or as well as she knows them, because they're kind of open books with each other. Okay. So Ty demonstrates a level of emotional detachment. She isn't good with commitment. She isn't good with sharing. She isn't good with creating emotional attachment. She's there, but she's not there. She's in the mix. She's right there. She's hey, but you don't know her. She doesn't let you get close to her. That's who Ty is. So on the surface, she's very well put together. I mean, she's got everything, down pat. But like I said, she has an inability to emotionally bond, which is a telltale sign of her internal issues. And then last but not least, we have the character Angie, who is played by Shaniqua Shandai. And Angie is the 304 turned bum. She's the darkest one in the group. She's also the one that's a little heavier than everybody else. So everybody else is a size 4 and, a size 6 and, all that type of stuff. Even Ty's a big woman. She's taller than everybody else. So she's a bigger woman. Okay. She's not a petite woman at all, but she's not fat either. Angie is more of the size 12. She's more like a size 12 or something like that. So she got a little meat on the bones. Black people would say she's just thick. She's not like sloppy fat, but she's bigger than the rest of the girls in that department. Like I said, she's dark skinned. She, wears a natural hair and all this good stuff. She's, like I said, the 304 term bum. She's a casual 304. Like she's the type that will give a BJ to the Uber driver because he's cute. She's that girl. Like she's completely unabashed by anything sexual. She doesn't, she doesn't care. Her only criteria to sleep with a guy is the raw base physical attraction. That's it. She does not have any criteria. She don't want to be locked down. She don't want to have a regular relationship. She is a 304. Her body count got to be up the roof. Okay. So what's going on with her is she's an aspiring singer who at one point in time had a record deal. And that record deal ended up falling through mainly because the label that she was under was absorbed by a larger record label in a merger. Okay. But as an artist, Angie did not show enough promise or enough talent to make the new record company take her on and continue her contract or even create a new contract or anything like that. She is, let me finish this thought. She lives with Quinn, okay? After the label collapsed and nobody picked her up, she had to end up living with Quinn because she was subsisting off of the advances and things of that nature that the record company was giving her. Well, once they dropped her, she no longer had those advances or that money. So she didn't have any stability of any kind. So she had to live with Quinn. So according to the show, that's been about 5 years. Okay. So she still hasn't gotten herself on her feet or anything together for 5 years. No work, no type of real work, whether in entertainment or outside of it or anything like that. This is the type of woman that feels entitled to opportunities without really applying herself or her talent. She feels like people should just recognize how awesome she is and then just give her these opportunities because she's awesome. She doesn't have any sense of propriety. She doesn't have any class. She doesn't know how to schmooze. She doesn't even know how to give people like the customer service, she doesn't have really any go along to get along. And in some cases that can be okay, but she takes it too far because she shoots herself in the foot for any opportunities that possibly would come her way. So she basically shoots herself in the foot because not only is she entitled to opportunities without applying herself, she's often very loud, she's often confrontational, and she often embarrasses herself and others in public. So that loud thing, okay, you know how when people, Angie's the type of girl that if she sees something funny or she's gonna talk about somebody, like let's say y'all standing in line in a store or something, and somebody comes up and she wants to say something witty or funny or talk about them some kind of way, she'll say it loud enough for that person to hear. She's that girl. She'll say it loud enough it doesn't matter, for that person to hear her crack a joke on them or roast them somehow, and then now you got to deal with it. If you're there with her, now you got to deal with whatever the reaction's going to be, right? And you kind of got to cover for her and all that stuff, because she doesn't care how her actions affect anybody. She's just going to say what she want to say, and she's going to walk off like she really did something, okay? So that's the synopsis for each of these characters. Now, when we talk about these characters, when we talk about these ladies, I want to give or talk about the concept of tropes, because we know famously that Black women have been depicted in TVs and movies of basically the four real famous tropes, which have been the Jezebel, the Sapphire, the Mammy. Let's see, the Jezebel, the Sapphire, the Mammy. Yeah, the Jezebel, Sapphire, and Mammy. Those are the three biggest ones, okay? And there have been additional or variations of those tropes throughout the years because of cultural changes and this and that. So now we don't even really have a whole lot of the trope for the Mammy, let's say, because the Mammy trope is the super self-sacrificing, she will give of herself for her masters, her rulers, or her oppressors. She will happily work to her death for them. You know, it doesn't matter. To completely deny herself, complete self-deprecation, complete all of that, right? And the Sapphire is actually the matriarch trope, okay? The Sapphire is sassy, but she's really the one who has a family setting, husband and stuff like that, but she runs the roost, right? She runs it. She has a husband that doesn't really have a backbone. He's not really running the show. He's just like a beta male provider. And the Sapphire trope actually really was turned that way from a very old show called Amos and Andy. And Kingfish's wife was named Sapphire, but Sapphire ran him. She was always complaining. He was, you know, she was always talking about how dishonest he was and how nothing he was, and all of those sorts of things. She was always, quote unquote, having to clean up behind his messes, not just physical messes, but messes he gets himself into. She's got to do damage control for them and things of that nature, and she runs the household. Well, when I thought about those tropes, I thought about, why don't we see the more of the Mammy and the Sapphire? And the reason that I came up with was that there aren't any families. The Mammy and the Sapphire trope is dependent upon the family dynamics. There's a family somewhere. Because if you think about the Mammy trope, I'll give you one from way back in the day. Give Me a Break with Nell Carter. She was the overweight, dark-skinned. The Mammy is overweight. She's dark-skinned. She's not sexually attractive. She's asexual. So there's no sexuality attached to that character at all. Okay, she's jolly, and she likes being in a subservient sort of role, right? So Nell Carter's character in Give Me a Break, which they use her real name, Nell, she was the maid and nanny for a white guy and his children. Okay, he was like a cop, and she was taking care of his household and all of that type of stuff. Super happy, super helpful, super, you know what I'm saying? Nothing was ever about her. There was not a selfish bone in her body. She was She was just this openly giving, but the twist on the mammy is that she really only does this for others, for non-blacks. She doesn't do it for her own family. She sacrifices her family for that family, okay? And that's really the twist of the mammy. The sapphire doesn't necessarily have a lot of sexuality attached to her, but she doesn't come off as asexual either. The one that's really sexual is the Jezebel. And I noticed that all of them, including Ty, which is the L word, they're all Jezebels. And not Jezebel in the biblical sense, but Jezebel, not necessarily in the biblical sense, not the biblical Jezebel, but the Jezebel trope of the super hypersexual Black woman. All of her value is in her sex. All of her value is in that. She's almost incapable of being violated, right? Because she's so sexual. She doesn't mind the one night stand. She doesn't mind the tryst in the closet. She doesn't mind you taking her behind somewhere and sticking it in real quick and getting it on real quick, and then you be quiet and I don't tell and you don't tell. She doesn't mind. That's the Jezebel, okay? She doesn't really have a lot of layers to her. She's almost completely consumed by sexuality, her allure, and all of these sorts of things, but it's destructive, right? And that's the thing that I noticed. I noticed that they're all Jezebels. And there's also a newer trope, the trope of the strong Black independent woman. They're all that. So they're strong Black independent Jezebels. That is the trope. All of them are that. Okay? And this is interesting that they pushing that to Black women, and Black women are the faces of Jezebel, of strong Black woman, independent. We don't need no man. We're making it on our own. We're doing things on our own. Like, okay. All of them are like that. Because it's a sense of the individual. There aren't really any family dynamics for any of them. Excuse me. My apologies. So we don't ever see Camille's mom. We never see any of her family members. The only family members that we see is Quinn's mother and father. We've seen more her mother than her father, but we have seen them. Quinn is the only one that has any attachment to her extended family. There are no nuclear families for the women themselves. Quinn's mother and father are still married. They're not estranged or anything like that. They're still together. But when you think about again, Ty has no attachments, and we don't know anything about the family members for Angie either. Where's her family? Why does she have to stay with Quinn? Where's her mother, father, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles? Like, where are these people for her? So this is a interesting dynamic and concept where they have these women who are completely individualized. These women don't have familial attachment. These women don't have familial protection. These women don't have any cover. So they're moving around in the world without anything to ground them, without anything to guide them, okay? And these are the things that are being pushed to Black women. So the last thing I'm going to do before we go is I'm going to rate each character according to the loss of value system. So you can get a better idea. For Camille, I gave Camille I rated her a 7 in the lost value system because she has a PhD. Camille has a PhD, right? And she's in academia, so she has elevated her education. She is attractive, okay? She's physically attractive, but she doesn't have a lot of money. The money's missing for her. So still, under the lost value system, when we take a look at that, Camille is a 7, okay? And I don't mean like numbers over here. I mean, she's a 7. She ranks pretty high on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low on the lost value system, 10 being the highest. She is a 7 because of her academic pursuits, okay? When we talk about Quinn's character, I gave Quinn's character an 8. Even though Quinn is lying about her actual success, she appears to be successful, but she's dependent on her parents for financial, to keep her afloat. Like I said, they keep her business afloat and all that sort of stuff. But she ranks higher because she has the illusion of wealth. She gives the impression that she's really together. She can give you high value woman. She can give you the etiquette and I know how to speak. I know how to go places. She's been in corporate America. She understands how to move in that world. So because of that, because of her physical attraction, she's an attractive woman. So, and all of that. So she's about an 8. She can fake it till she makes it. Even though she doesn't really have money of her own, she can go places. And because she's a fashion designer, she can make her own clothes. She can look really high end. She understands moving that way. She understands moving in a world where there are wealthy people and what they expect to be social in that way. You understand what I'm saying? She understands it. So she could actually, if she applied herself, could go into certain circles and have men to be interested in her, men who have means. Okay, so she's an 8. Ty, on the lost value system scale, is going to be a 10. Crimson Cure, whoa, how does the L word become a 10? Because yeah, this is what the lost value system is all about. She's what the lost value system is all about. Okay? She's part of the alternative lifestyle. She's an L word. She's extremely successful because what's at the top? What's at the top of the lost value system? Wealth. This is why she's a 10. She's the wealthiest of them. She's independently wealthy. Okay? She's not relying on her parents and somebody else to give her something. She's wealthy on her own. Okay? So she's at the top. She has full access to wealth and leisure and her profession, right? And mobility. She's the full package under the lost value system. In her realm, like she's not tripping about the guys, but in her realm, she's a player. She's unattached. She leads this alternative lifestyle. She is, she's the goals. She's the goals. She's literally, I don't need a man. She's literally, I did it on my own. She's literally, I can move how I want to move. So that's why Ty's a 10. And interestingly enough, Angie is a 4 on the lost value system chart. And the reason why I rank her a number 4 is Angie doesn't have the top things that are valued under the lost value system. She doesn't have wealth. She spends a lot of time in leisure, but her profession sucks. She's not very highly educated. Her mobility is low. She doesn't have really any skill, but the only reason that she's not any lower than that on the lost value system ranking is because she's still a gynocrat. She's heavily a gynocrat, and that counts for something in the lost value system. With a woman, especially Black women, it counts that you're a hyena, that you are a gynocrat. She's heavily that, and she's heavily sexual. Okay? So that counts for something because she's fully invested in the transaction. She's fully invested in the loss value system. She doesn't have a lot of rank in the loss value system, right? So that's why she's a 4 in it. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is definitely going to be a very interesting and very awesome breakdowns of these episodes that I've got coming up and lined up for you guys. And we're really going to deep dive into these characters. We're going to talk about, not only these characters in relation to the lost value system, but these characters in relation to the 10 life values. And since the show is focusing on women, we're going to talk about them in terms of the Valuable Woman series as well. Okay, so definitely tune in. You will not be disappointed as we get into this show. So sound off in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you've not. Once again, I'm your host of Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonites.
Hey guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.